Good evening. I'm Chris Berg. Thanks for joining us. I am in an absolutely outstanding mood tonight because tonight's point of view topic is I want to give you some cash. In my hands right now is a check for $3,000, and I want to give you this check today, right now. Now, what the heck? Because I'm in such a good mood, I want to give you a check for $3,000 every year for the next 5 years. $3,000 every year for you for the next 5 years. Sound pretty good? How would you like an extra $15,000 over the next 5 years? In fact, I want you to take a moment right now and think about this. How would it feel to have an extra 15 grand in your pocket right now? What would you do with it? If you had an extra 15 grand, you knew it an extra 15 grand coming your way, what would you do with it? Holidays coming up? Here's the deal. If you want this money, if you want to go and cash this check, all you have to do is one simple thing. And I'll give this to you. And that thing is simply vote yes to making North Dakota the first zero-tax state in the nation. You heard me right. No income taxes, no sales taxes, and no property taxes for the next 5 years. If you knew that the state of North Dakota did not need to take another penny of tax revenue from you over the next 5 years, and you knew with absolute certainty that the state could run as is without another penny from you, would you like to have another 15 grand in your pocket? I know I would. Now, I came up with this $3,000 number per year because according to taxfoundation.org, the average North Dakota resident pays roughly $3,700 in state and local taxes each year. Now, notice one thing. I'm not saying we get rid of taxes forever. Now, that would be awesome. All I'm saying is, if a 5-year tax abatement has worked so well for the Renaissance Zone and the state's got plenty of cash and reserve funds, why not make it fair for everyone? We all like fairness, don't we? Last week, Mike Marcil, the CEO of Bakken.com, and myself had a chance to sit down with Governor Jack Dalrymple, and we had a great discussion about what's the end game with all this money coming into the North Dakota coffers. What does it really mean for you and I, the citizens of North Dakota? Is it feasible in 2015 that North Dakota could be the first state to eliminate income taxes, property taxes, and sales taxes? With us to have that discussion tonight, Governor Jack Dalrymple of the great state of North Dakota. Also back joining us, the CEO of Bakken.com, Mike Marcil. To both of you, thanks so much for joining us. Governor Dalrymple, Mike and I have been having this discussion now for a couple of shows, and we talked about, $20 billion. If you look at all the money in the state of North Dakota, you start looking at some of the trust funds, the emergency funds, there's a lot of cash here in this state. I want to get your thoughts on what this would mean for the state of North Dakota with businesses coming in, wealth creation. If you got ahead of this thing going into the 2015 legislative session, you know what? I'm going to create a feasible plan where this state could eliminate property taxes, income taxes, and also sales taxes. Can that be done with how well you know these numbers?
Well, that's a wonderful thought, isn't it? I mean, just the fact that we could even be talking about that is pretty fun. I think there are some realities that we have to remain aware of, and one of them is that a lot of the funds that we're talking about are actually tied up by constitutional provisions and other state laws that require revenue to move into certain reserve funds. But even so, if we're going to keep lowering taxes in North Dakota, we're going to be able to keep on doing what we've been doing for the last 3 legislative sessions and get taxes down even more. And then in the end, we'll have to make a policy decision. How low do we want our taxes? We certainly want to be among the very lowest in the nation.
So let me ask you this, and again, this is what I mean by maybe you getting ahead of the conversation. I think we all in this room would agree that, a Measure 2 is going to come back in some way, shape, or form in 2014. So would you be open to looking at putting on the ballot a way to change the constitutionality, for example, of the Common School Trust Fund? Maybe we access the Legacy Fund sooner than 2017. Would you be open to some of those changes?
Well, those are, big public policy questions. There'd be a lot of debate about that. The Legacy Fund was created by a vote of the people. Have the people changed their mind about setting aside 30% of our oil and gas revenues? I guess I don't know why they would have, changed their mind about that at this point. We will be able to talk about whether some of these reserve funds need to be as big as they are. Most of them were created to avert, a short-term crisis of some kind. I don't think, we need to build them up endlessly. But, that's all part of the legislative process, making those good decisions. The good news is, I think we can do it all. I think we can have great reserve funds and at the same time meet all of our priorities and at the same time lower taxes. There isn't another state in the nation that can say that.
Governor, this is Mike Marcil. I had a quick question. We've just finished about a 6-month research project on all of the constitutional funds and everything from the postage funds all the way to the legacy fund. One of the things that we found is that in the minerals side of basically the lands department, there is active income that has nothing to do with the oil and the production and excise taxes. It has to do with the royalties that are received by the lands department. Can you speak to that? Because that would appear to be over $700 million last year in active income that conceivably, if we extrapolate, could probably go for 30 or 40 years. Could we replace, let's say, the property tax buy down out of the general budget with a constitutional vote to the people to say, hey, let's replace it with the trust fund revenue?
Well, those are fun things to think about. I think that the Common Schools Trust Fund is controlled by our Constitution, and they are required to accumulate, that wealth, those assets, in a permanent trust fund, and then we basically spend a percentage of it every year. That fund could grow extremely large. The income that could come off of that fund to be distributed every year could become very substantial. It is dedicated to the support of our K-12 schools, but even if we use it for that purpose, that reduces the pressure on the general fund, and that saves us money, and that ultimately leads to a situation, as you described, where we could say, hey, maybe we don't need all the general fund revenue that we've been raising.
I mean, it is a fairly large number already. Last year it was almost $1 billion just in the revenue in the Common Schools Trust Fund, not the entire lands department. But the question would be is, do you think the voters would vote for some restructuring of the way that those dollars, and I'm not talking about the investment dollars, I'm actually talking about the active income, just like the Bank of North Dakota, and how we generate an income stream that could be used for bonding, or it could be used for one-time school purchases, or frankly, repeal the existing property tax formula out of the general budget and replace it with a trust fund, which, as you know, has nothing to do with property income or any other tax. These are monies that are coming and have already been taxed.
Yeah, and what you're bringing up is topics that haven't been discussed that much in North Dakota yet. But it was interesting, this summer I had an opportunity to go to Norway on a trade mission, and we had an opportunity to meet with some of the leaders of Norway, some of their business leaders as well. And they talked about, after 20 years of North Sea oil income, the country of Norway is actually contemplating the possibility of running their country basically on interest. And, that's an amazing thought. It has a lot of implications. The Norwegians said they're not all positive. There's actually a danger of people becoming a bit lazy. And so that's down the road a ways for North Dakota. I think we're just beginning to build up these reserve funds, but the day will probably come and we will talk seriously about those topics.
And I think you mentioned something very powerful there, Governor, about just beginning. So when we come back, I want to talk about what's the end game in all of this. Let's say things keep going as they are. What's the end game for Governor Jack Dalrymple and ideally, obviously, for the state of North Dakota? Stay with us. Join our conversation, 630POV.com. We'll be right back with Governor Jack Dalrymple and Mike Marcil. We've got all this money here in North Dakota, but what's the end game? With us to have that discussion, Governor Jack Dalrymple, also Mike Marcil, CEO of Bakken.com. To both of you, thanks for sticking around. Governor Dalrymple, I want to throw that out to you. I know you've had this program called North Dakota 2020, but let's assume things keep going pretty well here, at least for the next decade. In your opinion, and you're a numbers guy, you know this stuff, with all this money, what's the end game? What's the target?
Well, I think ultimately, Chris, you know, the target is fantastic quality of life in North Dakota for all of our citizens. That ultimately is, you know, why we talk about all these financial strategies. And we can see a day when we're going to be able to do some things that people probably have wanted to do for some time, but they have just not been possible in the past. We'll be able to invest in infrastructure, make capital improvements around the state. We'll be able to do things to help communities. And that is all great news for North Dakota. But at the same time, we'll be in a low tax environment and we'll have financial security for the long haul. So it's a very, very positive scenario. But in the end, it's about, you know, let's have among the highest per capita incomes in the United States. Let's have great education. Let's have great infrastructure. Let's have quality of life opportunities and outdoor recreation and other areas. You know, those are the things that people really like to daydream about and look forward to.
And Governor, I want to propose this to you sort of hypothetically. You talk about quality of life. For me, my own personal quality of life, I think, hey, the more money you can put in my pocket, that's going to increase my quality of life. So again, I want to pose this to you. Look at Dubai. Would you be willing to, and think about it in this context, get rid of property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes, or at least one of them, and think about what that would mean for businesses coming to North Dakota? You know as well as anybody, a corporation says, hey, no property taxes, no income taxes. That is a great nugget to put out there. So are you open to getting rid of all three? And I want you to talk about what that would mean for wealth creation in the state and bringing more business into the state of North Dakota.
Hey, Chris, I got to give you credit for, like, you know, even proposing the possibility. And, you know, it is fun to think about that, you know, that kind of a future. I think that, you know, we do need to take this like a year at a time, a step at a time. But in the end, we will be wanting to empower individual people in North Dakota, small businesses, large businesses, let them make the great decisions about how to make a profit and how to create jobs for our people, and let them operate in a low-tax environment, in an environment where regulation is very reasonable. Then the great things will continue to emerge for North Dakota as they have for the last 10 years.
So, Governor,
I think we're on a great track right now.
I'm going to ask this one more time, maybe a little bit differently, because obviously, as you know, you've got a couple years left in your term. I'm not sure if you're going to run again or not, but I want you to answer this in the context of Governor Jack Dalrymple's legacy. You know the Renaissance situation here in Fargo, the tax abatement for 5 years. So maybe we don't indefinitely get rid of these three taxes, but would you be open, again, getting in front of this, knowing that Measure 2 is coming on the pipeline, saying, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to lead going into the 2015 session with the idea of getting rid of these taxes for 5 years and think about what that would do for Governor Jack Dalrymple's legacy. Your thoughts on that?
Well, really, Chris, I think it's a better policy to just continue lowering all taxes. We want to do this as we know that we are not going to be in need of any added revenue. That's the context in which you lower taxes. You don't want to ever get in a situation where you have eliminated a tax that people are accustomed to being responsible for, and then come back a couple of years later and say, oops, it didn't turn out as well as we thought. Now we got to come back and put that tax back on again. We want to avoid that. As we lower taxes, we want to know that this is going to be a permanent decision. So if we lower all kinds of taxes every legislative session as we go forward, we're going to be in a great place.
Go ahead, Mike.
And Governor, I think to that point, most North Dakotans don't realize we did receive a 25% tax reduction that will take effect in the next year. I believe in the last 4 sessions, we've lowered our income tax by almost 56%. Would you be in favor of just continuing that 25% biennium if the ship was steady kind of approach?
Well, yes, I'm in favor of continuing to make steady reductions over time. Please don't try to pin me down to a percentage or an exact figure, because each time we have to evaluate what are our revenue needs for the upcoming biennium, and we make that decision at that time. But yes, what you're saying, Mike, is certainly not out of the question.
Governor, 2 final questions for you. One is, and again, I know I kind of handled this, but I'm trying it from different angles. If we eliminated these 3 taxes we've talked about, do you agree that we would see a huge, even more of a business boom in the state? Do you think that would attract more businesses here, yes or no?
Well, it certainly would.
Okay, so
but the thing we have to keep in mind is, do we need to do something, really drastically bold like that to attract businesses? I think we're already attracting a lot of business into North Dakota because we have among the lowest tax rates in the country and the best workforce, the best regulatory environment. The main thing is they are more than happy to come here. And then as time goes by, if we don't need tax revenue, the thing to do is give it back to the people, let people keep their money, let people spend their money and invest their money where they think it is best utilized, and take that decision completely out of the government sector.
And maybe I'm being short-sighted, but I see what happened, obviously, with McClough. I look at what's going on in New York, Illinois, California. I think, boy, Governor Jack Dalrymple going to the next National Governors Association meeting going, yeah, we got rid of these taxes for the next few years. I mean, you would be the king of that meeting. Last thing, Governor, Mike talked about the $700 million in revenue from these minerals. How, again, you being a numbers guy, how can we better leverage that income to give more money back into the pockets of the people of North Dakota?
Well, I think that in the case of the Common Schools Trust Fund, if we can pay for a greater and greater share of the cost of K-12 education through a permanent trust fund like that, that just takes all the pressure off of the general fund spending. And that becomes your opportunity to provide even more tax relief to your citizens.
And then would you vote to
in a
cap?
way, it's a trade-off. You don't have to have a direct relationship. As long as that revenue is available, that means money is freed up, and that means you have the opportunity to lower taxes.
All right, Governor Jack Dalrymple, Mike Marcil, again, the CEO of Bakken.com, to both of you, thanks so much for being part of this conversation. And Governor, I think you hit it right on the head. Thanks to Mike, we have now at least opened up this dialogue in the state of North Dakota. Mike, I can't thank you enough for doing the research. Governor Jack Dalrymple, can't thank you enough for your time and having this conversation. I get the feeling we will have this again soon in the future. Stay with us. Much more coming up here in 630 Point of View. As always, be sure and join our conversation. 630POV.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Gene Zimmerman.
So we kicked off tonight's show, and I asked you if you wanted an extra 15 grand in your pocket via these $3,000 a year checks. All of you were like, yes, 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 yes. On the feedback, as always, thank you so much for being a part of this show. Earlier today at valleynewslive.com, we took our Pulse of the Valley poll. We asked you, hey, would you vote to make North Dakota the first zero-tax state? You can see here, pretty fascinating. 52% said no. 48% said yes. What I'm curious about is why would 2% of you in North Dakota say, no, I don't really want an extra $15,000. If you sincerely mean that, I can give you my routing number and you can just send your checks to me. Here's the thing. I know a lot of you are saying, well, Chris, what are we going to do about what if we run out of money? What if this? What if that? Next week, again, Mike Marcil, the CEO of Bakken.com, will be joining us for a Tuesday night show. And we're going to break down, hey, is this feasible to be a zero tax state? Where is all this money at? And if it is, what can you as a North Dakota citizen be doing to put an extra $15,000 back in your pocket? I kind of like this, Ashley. I feel like Santa Claus tonight, where I can just be like, hey, here's a check for you. Here's a check for you. Be sure and join us on Feedback Friday. My phone's been going crazy all night, too. We'll get to all your feedback on Friday. Stay with us. Much more coming up right here on 630 Point of View.